There are secrets that were never meant to be spoken aloud. Not because they are dangerous in the way fire is dangerous, but because they are alive. And like all living things, they respond only to those who approach them in the correct state. For thousands of years, scholars have searched for the lost libraries of Egypt. They excavated stone, dust, papyrus fragments, temple ruins. They searched for scrolls. They searched in the wrong place, because the most important Egyptian library was never written down. It was entered. What you are about to hear was not preserved in ink or stone. It was preserved in state, vibration, and inner alignment. The priests called it many names. The Indians would later call it the Akasha. The Tibetans spoke of the mind treasury. Modern physicists stumble around it with phrases like zero-point field or non-local information space. But in ancient Egypt, there was a simpler understanding. There exists a field of memory beneath time itself, a place where every thought, every intention, every possible future already exists, not as fate, but as potential. And there was one being who learned how to enter it consciously. Thoth. Not the cartoon god, not the ibis-headed symbol, but the initiate, the master of frequency, language, and inner geometry, the one the Greeks would later rename Hermes, the one whose knowledge terrified kings and humbled priests. Here is the truth most people are not ready to hear. Thoth did not read the Akashic Records, he tuned into them. And once you understand how he did this, something uncomfortable happens. You realize the same doorway still exists, and that it was never locked. It simply rejects the unprepared. This is not a casual curiosity. If you listen passively, nothing will happen. But if you follow even one instruction correctly, just once, your relationship with memory, intuition, and inner knowing will never fully return to what it was before. You may feel nothing at first, or you may feel a subtle pressure behind the eyes, a ringing, a sense that something ancient is listening back. Those are not side effects. Those are confirmations. Before we begin, a warning once carved above an inner chamber in Dendera, later erased by Roman hands. Those who seek power without silence will fracture their mind. This journey requires no belief, but it does require restraint. If at any point you feel the urge to rush, to prove, to force an experience, stop. That impulse is the first mental trap. Instead, approach this the way Thoth taught his students, as if you are remembering something you already knew but agreed to forget. Take a breath now, slow, deeper than the one before, and as you exhale, allow this thought to settle. If the Akashic Records exist, then memory itself is not trapped in the past, and neither are you. This is not a book, not a place, but a field of memory that responds only to coherence. It is difficult to explain the Akashic Records without disappointing people, because most imagine shelves, scrolls, some glowing cosmic database floating in the astral sky. That image comforts the mind and completely misses the truth. The Akashic Records are not something you look at, they are something that looks through you. The Egyptian initiates understood this in a way modern mystics rarely do. To them, memory was not stored, it was resonant. Imagine striking a tuning fork in a dark room. Nothing visible happens, yet the air reorganizes itself around that vibration. Now imagine consciousness works the same way. Every event, every intention, every trauma, every revelation leaves a vibrational imprint, not just in the brain, but in the underlying fabric that gives rise to experience itself. This is the living archive, not written in language, written in pattern. Thoth's genius was not that he gathered information, but that he learned how to become compatible with the patterns he wished to access. This is where most seekers fail. They ask, "How do I open the records?" The Egyptian question was different. What must I stop being in order to enter? The priests trained for years to undo reflexes that modern people don't even know they have. The need to label, the need to interpret, the need to emotionally react. Because reaction creates noise, and noise scrambles the signal. Modern neuroscience accidentally stumbled onto this truth. Studies on insight show that breakthroughs occur only when brain activity briefly drops into a low-noise, high coherence state, especially in the right temporal lobe. Ancient Egypt knew this thousands of years ago. They called it Sekhem, inner power that flows only when the mind becomes still enough to conduct it. Here is the first experiential instruction. Do not rush it. Close your eyes, but do not visualize anything. Instead, feel the space behind your eyes, as if awareness has stepped half an inch backwards inside your skull. Now breathe in through the nose for a count of 7. Hold for 3. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 9. Repeat this 3 times. On the final exhale, allow the jaw to loosen, the tongue rests flat, the forehead softens. Do not expect images, do not demand meaning. Instead, notice this. There is a moment, brief, almost fragile, where thoughts hesitate before continuing. That hesitation is the doorway. This is why the Akashic Records were guarded so carefully, because once a person realizes that memory exists independent of time, identity becomes negotiable, and that terrifies societies built on obedience. Egyptian myth encoded this danger symbolically. Thoth was said to steal knowledge from the gods, but the truth is subtler. He discovered that the gods themselves accessed the same field. They were not creators, they were interfaces. This idea echoes uncannily across cultures. In India, the rishis claimed the Vedas were heard, not composed. In Tibet, advanced lamas speak of terma, hidden teachings revealed only when the practitioner's mind matches the original frequency of concealment. Even modern physics flirts with the idea that information is conserved, non-local, and eternal. The living archive is not mystical fantasy. It is a property of reality that consciousness can interact with, but only under strict conditions. Here is the second warning. When people attempt to access this field emotionally charged, desperate for answers, validation, or power, they do not access truth. They access echoes, fragments colored by fear, desire, or imagination. This is how delusion begins. True access feels oddly unimpressive at first, quiet, neutral, almost boring. And then, hours or days later, insights begin to reorganize your life without asking permission. This is why Thoth insisted his students keep silent for days after certain practices. Speaking too soon collapses the pattern. If you are doing this correctly, you may experience one of the following within the next 24 to 72 hours. Sudden clarity about an old memory, a loss of emotional charge around a recurring fear, intuitive knowledge without reasoning, an unusual calm that feels earned, not forced. If instead you feel agitation, superiority, or urgency to teach others, stop immediately. Those are signs the ego intercepted the signal. Before we close this section, there is one final alignment. Softly, aloud or internally, let the sound Tha form in the chest. Not shouted, not whispered, felt. Hold the vibration for one full breath. That sound was never meant as a word, it was a key. If something subtly shifted just now, even slightly, you have already touched the outer edge of the archive, and once touched, it never fully forgets you. Type, "I have activated the living archive" in the comments to seal this resonance with the collective field. This is the discipline of inner geometry, where sound, silence, and posture become keys rather than tools. It is tempting to imagine that Thoth accessed universal wisdom through brilliance alone, as if intelligence were enough, as if insight bowed to cleverness. That fantasy collapses the moment you examine the training of Egyptian initiates, because Thoth did not trust the thinking mind, he trained around it. The temples where his methods were transmitted were not lecture halls, they were pressure chambers, architectural instruments designed to reorganize the nervous system itself. Anyone who has ever stood inside a sealed stone chamber in an Egyptian temple knows something unsettling happens there. The silence does not feel empty, it feels occupied. Sound behaves differently. Breath becomes louder than thought. Time loses its edges. This was intentional. Thoth understood something modern psychology is only beginning to admit. The thinking mind is not the seat of wisdom. It is the gatekeeper that must be bypassed gently, respectfully, before deeper intelligence is allowed to surface. His method of entry into the Akashic field relied on three converging alignments: postural geometry, breath rhythm, vibrational sound, not practiced separately, but braided into a single state. Let us begin with what most people dismiss, and therefore never master: posture. The Egyptian initiates were obsessed with angles, not aesthetics, conductivity. The spine was treated as an antenna, the skull as a resonant chamber, the pelvis as a stabilizing counterweight. Thoth taught that when the spine curves incorrectly, memory collapses inward. When aligned correctly, memory expands outward. Sit now, or stand if you prefer, but make this adjustment. Imagine the crown of your head being gently lifted, not upward, but backward, as if awareness were being drawn behind you. The chin drops a fraction, the chest softens, the lower back is neither arched nor slumped. You are not sitting up straight, you are unfolding. This alignment does something subtle but critical. It reduces internal friction. Now to the breath, the true gatekeeper. Most traditions teach breathing to calm the mind. Thoth used breath to desynchronize it. Here is the sequence exactly as it was preserved in fragments of temple instruction, misunderstood for centuries as symbolism. Inhale through the nose for 5 counts. Pause for 5. Exhale through the nose for 5. No force, no drama. Repeat this cycle 7 times. On the final exhale, allow the breath to fall out on its own, no counting.
This is the moment to observe carefully. There is often a strange sensation here, a flicker of resistance, as if the mind realizes it is losing command. Some feel a pressure at the base of the skull. Others feel a wave of heat or cold pass through the torso. This is not mystical, it is neurological. The breath has shifted dominance away from habitual networks and towards a quieter, integrative field. Now, and only now, does Thoth introduce sound, but not the way people expect. No chanting, no repetition, no performance, just a single vibration placed precisely. The sound is Ka, not pronounced sharply, allowed to bloom in the back of the throat. Inhale gently. On the exhale, let Ka resonate until the breath ends. One time only, then silence. This is where things become uncomfortable for the unprepared, because in that silence, something begins to surface that is not thought, not memory, not imagination. It feels more like recognition. People often report a sense of, "I've been here before," without any image attached. Others feel a sudden emotional neutrality, as if old stories have briefly lost their authority. This is the threshold. Thoth warned explicitly about what he called the false opening. If, after this practice, you feel inflated, special, chosen, superior, you have not entered anything. The ego has simply learned a new costume. True contact with the Akashic field produces the opposite effect: humility, stillness, a quiet sadness mixed with awe, because you realize how little of what you call you is fixed. This realization is not always pleasant. This is why the temples enforced prerequisites: emotional discipline, the ability to remain silent, freedom from obsession with outcomes. Those who skipped these steps experienced fragmentation, what modern language might call dissociation, anxiety, or spiritual delusion. The records do not harm people. They amplify coherence or incoherence equally. Now, a cross-cultural echo. In Tibetan Jozen, advanced practitioners are warned not to open the sky mind prematurely. In India, students are forbidden from certain mantras until the nervous system stabilizes. Different cultures, same rule. The field responds honestly. Before we close this section, there is one final seal. Place one hand lightly over the center of the chest. Do not visualize anything. Just feel warmth. Internally, let this sentence form without forcing emotion. I seek alignment, not control. Sit with that for 3 breaths. If you feel a subtle settling, as if something clicked into place without explanation, that is enough. Do not chase more. Type, "The gateway has steadied" in the comments to anchor this stage within the collective field.
This is the realm where sound ceases to mean and begins to reorganize reality. There is a dangerous misunderstanding about ancient languages. Most people believe words were invented to describe reality. The Egyptians knew better. They understood that the earliest sounds were not descriptions at all. They were instructions. Thoth did not treat language as communication. He treated it as engineering. This is why so much of Egyptian sacred knowledge appears fragmented, symbolic, or nonsensical when translated literally. It was never meant to be read by the analytical mind. It was meant to be entered through vibration. Before there were alphabets, before grammar, before writing itself, there were phonetic forces, raw sound shapes that interacted directly with the nervous system and subtle perception. The Akashic Records cannot be accessed through meaning. Meaning belongs to time. The records exist beneath it. They respond only to resonance. Thoth's most controversial teaching, one that later priesthoods deliberately obscured, was this: the universe listens to how you sound, not to what you say. This idea unsettles modern people because it strips intention of its romance. You can desire truth passionately and still be locked out. You can speak prayers endlessly and remain unheard, because the gate does not open to sincerity, it opens to coherence. Ancient Egyptian sound practice was not chanting as performance, it was closer to tuning an instrument that happens to be alive, you. This is why many initiates failed. They tried to do the sound. Thoth taught his students to allow the sound to do them. Let me tell you a moment preserved not in text but in whispered temple instruction. An initiate once asked Thoth which sound opens the records. Thoth answered, "Any sound that leaves no one behind." The student did not understand. Years later, in a sealed chamber, after days of silence, the student finally heard what that meant. The correct sound is not chosen by the mind. It arises when the inner system is no longer fragmented. When breath, posture, attention, and silence converge, a vibration naturally emerges, subtle, spontaneous, unforced. That vibration is the signature of alignment. Here is the experiential truth most teachings avoid. If you must repeat a sound aggressively, it is not working. If you feel strain, it is not working. If you feel powerful, it is not working. The correct vibration feels almost disappointingly simple. This is where modern science offers an unexpected mirror. Studies on vocal toning show that certain frequencies stimulate the vagus nerve, synchronize hemispheric brain activity, and induce states of non-local awareness, not through belief, but through physics. Sound reorganizes matter, and you are matter that listens. Now we approach a practice Thoth reserved for those who had already mastered restraint. Do not perform this casually. Sit or stand as before, spine aligned, jaw relaxed, eyes closed or half open. Begin with 3 natural breaths. On the 4th exhale, let a soft hum form, not in the mouth, but in the chest. No syllable yet, just vibration. Feel where the sound naturally wants to live. After a few seconds, allow the hum to gently shape itself into MM, lips barely touching. Hold it for as long as the breath remains comfortable. Then silence. Notice what happens in the silence after the sound. This is where most people miss the doorway. The sound is not the key. The after silence is. Thoth called this the listening void, the brief moment where the nervous system stops predicting what comes next. In that gap, something ancient stirs. Some experience a sense of expansion behind the face. Others feel a drop, like falling inward without fear. Some feel nothing at all, yet later report unexpected clarity. All are correct. Now comes the warning Thoth repeated more than any other. If at this stage you attempt to see something, visions, symbols, past lives, you will collapse the field. The records do not reveal themselves as images first. They reveal themselves as reorganization. You may notice over the next days old emotional reactions failing to trigger, sudden understanding without narrative, memories rearranging themselves, and unfamiliar patience. These are not side effects. They are the records doing what they do best, repatterning. Cross-cultural echoes appear again. In Zen, this is called Kensho before Satori.
In Tibet, it is the clear light before form. In India, the unstruck sound. Different maps, same territory. Now, a subtle but crucial trap. Many people, upon tasting this state, begin to chase it. They schedule it, optimize it, teach it prematurely. This hardens the field. The Akashic Records respond like a sensitive organism. They open more easily when approached indirectly, almost playfully. Thoth warned that obsession with access leads to distortion. You do not enter the records to gain answers, you enter to be corrected. Before closing this section, one final anchoring. Place attention at the base of the throat, not forcing, just noticing. Internally, allow this phrase to form without sound. I listen before I ask. Sit with that for a few breaths. If you feel a subtle cooling or a sense of internal alignment, enough. Do not repeat the sound again today. Let integration happen. Type, I have entered the listening void in the comments if this section resonated, not as a declaration, but as a quiet signal to others walking the same path.
This is the final truth. Access to universal wisdom rearranges identity, and not everyone survives that intact. There is a reason the Akashic Records were never advertised. Not in Egypt, not in India, not in Tibet. The danger was never that the knowledge was false. The danger was that it was true. Truth, when encountered directly, does not decorate the personality. It dissolves it. This is the part modern spiritual culture avoids, or worse, markets away. Thoth never promised enlightenment. He warned of unbecoming. Because once the records begin to respond, they do not answer questions the way humans expect. They do not comfort. They do not flatter. They strip away distortion. This is why so many initiates walked out of temples changed in ways their families could not recognize. Some became quieter, unbearably so. Others lost interest in ambition, status, even relationships that once defined them. A few became unstable, fragmented, or obsessed, not because the records harmed them, but because the records removed lies faster than the psyche could reorganize. This is the final mental trap. People believe wisdom adds. In truth, wisdom subtracts. It subtracts false urgency, false identity, false narratives about who you are and what you deserve. Thoth described this process as the burning of names. Every label you cling to, victim, hero, seeker, chosen, forgotten, is eventually consumed. What remains is not emptiness, it is clarity without storyline. This clarity is profoundly unsettling at first, because the mind has evolved to survive through narrative. Remove the narrative too quickly and the nervous system panics. This is why Thoth insisted that access be gradual. One opening, then integration, then waiting. Let me speak plainly now. If you continue working with these principles, one of three things will happen. Some of your old desires will simply stop making sense. Some of your fears will lose their emotional charge without explanation. Some of your relationships will strain, not because you changed intentionally, but because you no longer vibrate in old agreements. This is not spiritual superiority, it is frequency drift. The Akashic field does not turn you into something higher, it makes you more accurate. And accuracy can feel cold to those still living inside illusions. Ancient Egyptian initiates were warned about this social cost. Many chose to serve quietly rather than publicly.
Thoth himself vanished from political life, not because he lacked influence, but because influence distorts listening. Here is the final experiential instruction, the simplest and the most difficult. For the next 7 days, do nothing to access the records. No sound, no breath pattern, no ritual. Instead, practice this. When a strong emotion arises, irritation, excitement, fear, pause for 1 breath longer than usual. Just 1. In that pause, notice the space between impulse and reaction. That space is the same space the records use to speak. This is how access stabilizes, not through ceremony, but through daily coherence. If you do this correctly, you may notice a strange side effect. Life begins to respond differently, not magically, precisely. Opportunities align quietly. Conflicts resolve without drama. Intuition arrives without anxiety. This is how you know the field has accepted you, not as a visitor, but as a participant. Now, one final warning, perhaps the most important. Never use this access to manipulate outcomes or people. The field remembers intent. Those who attempt control eventually experience disintegration mentally, emotionally, or socially. This is not punishment, it is physics. Before we close, place 1 hand on the chest, 1 on the abdomen. Take 1 slow breath. Internally, allow this sentence to form. I choose responsibility over power. If that sentence feels heavy, stay with it. If it feels grounding, you are ready. There is nothing more to teach, only something to live. If you have followed this journey with sincerity, not curiosity, not hunger, then you are already part of what Thoth preserved, a lineage not of belief, but of attunement. If this transmission resonated, consider subscribing, not as a gesture of support alone, but as an act of alignment. Each subscriber, each shared viewing, each comment is a thread in a living network, an ancient echo of the ancient temples where knowledge survived through community, not hierarchy. Leave a comment such as, "The journey has begun," or "I walk with clarity." Not for me, for the field, for those who arrive later and need to know they are not alone. This is how ancient knowledge survives in a new age, not hidden, not shouted, but resonating.